So, this is about my husband, Andrew, 32M, and me, 30F, and our kids, our 3-year-old daughter, and our 1.5-year-old son. Some background info: Andrew and I have been married for 5 years and together for almost 8 years. We met through friends and we have grown through life together. So far, everything has been great, but he has had a lot to learn in the parenting department. When our daughter was born, he was very clueless about everything and I was the one who was doing most of the work. We did have a nanny to take care of her when both of us were away at work, but when the two of us were at home, on the weekends and stuff, I would find myself doing most of the work because he just had no idea how to go about it, and constantly said that he was nervous to take care of the baby on his own. Gradually, he did learn, but it took him some time. I don't mind that, but after that, even after our son was born recently, he had a lot of trouble getting into the groove of handling 2 kids. And because he took so much time to get used to everything, it almost felt like I was a single mother for a while. Every time that we would go out and take our kids outside with us, I was doing everything and he was just there. We had a couple of fights about it, but I decided to forgive him for it because I couldn't use this against him. The fact that he was taking time to get used to it, but eventually, I knew that he would do a good job at being a father. Or at least I hoped that he would. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we decided to take a family vacation to Los Angeles. It's a beautiful place and my sister, Abby, 26F, just recently moved there with her husband, so I thought that I would take some time to go see her as well. We had been planning for the trip for weeks because traveling with kids was not that easy. Anyway, 2 days ago, we finally got to the airport and while we were there, Andrew told me that he needed to use the washroom and left for a while. I thought he would come back soon, but almost half an hour passed and I was getting worried, so I decided to call him and ask him where he was. When I called him, he picked up instantly and was trying to beat about the bush when I asked him why he wasn't back yet. But I told him to cut it out, and then finally told me that while booking the flight tickets, he had upgraded himself to business class since he realized that he had enough points to do it. I immediately felt very betrayed and angry, and I told him that this was not cool in the slightest, but he said that he knew I wouldn't approve of it, which is why he hadn't told me. It was a very stupid thing to say, and it just made my anger even worse. I told him that he needed to come back to his family immediately. I was already very upset that he had even tried to do something like this, and now, if he didn't come back, then I would just go home with the kids and he could go on the trip by himself. Instead of coming back, he started arguing with me and said that he had been working really hard for the family and he deserved a break. Besides, it was not even that long of a flight and he believed that I could handle the kids on my own for 3 hours. I tried to explain to him that it was not just about the kids, I just wanted him to be there with me because I thought this was supposed to be a family vacation, and if it didn't even start on the right foot, then what's the point of going on such a trip? I was really hurt and I tried to get that through to him, but he was so thick, he didn't even realize how upset I was and just told me that he deserved a break and hung up. That move really pissed me off, because if we are talking about people who deserve a break, I think I should be the first in line because I'm also a working parent, and in addition to that, I also take care of the household, and the kids with very little help from him. Yes, he does work longer hours as compared to me, but he also gets to relax when he comes back home, which I don't. So if I'm not asking for a break away from my family, he doesn't get to do it either. I thought about going back home, but then, I decided that I was going to go on the trip and make sure that I made it worth it for me. My daughter had a lot of questions about why her father was not with us, but I didn't answer any of them and just told her that once we got there, she would get all the answers herself. So we boarded the flight on our own and after he had hung up on me, I did not speak to him at all. I'm just incredibly thankful that my kids decided to be quiet that day and fell asleep as soon as they boarded the flight. Once we landed, I did not wait for Andrew at all. I didn't even wait to grab our bags, I just booked a cab and went straight to the address that Abby had given me. I was extremely upset and those 3 hours in the aircraft by myself had made me realize how unfair all of this was. So I went to my sister's house and when I showed up, she was really happy to see me, but then, I sat down and explained the situation to her and she told me that I was welcome to stay with her and I did not need to worry about anything. I had left all of my stuff behind but I was not worried about my own things, since I did not have anything important in my bags apart from clothes and shoes and those could be replaced easily. I was just worried about the stuff that belonged to my kids, but Abby told me that she would get it all replaced, and I didn't have to worry about any of it. After we had landed, Andrew had tried to call me several times, but I had just been ignoring him. He did not even have the address to Abby's home, so he couldn't even show up. He kept texting me, asking me to answer the phone and tell me where I was, but I was very hurt, so I didn't bother. After almost 2 hours, since we had landed, I finally decided to call him back and then we finally had a conversation. He was quite panic-stricken and he told me that for the past 2 hours, he had been waiting at the airport with all the bags that belonged to the family, but we were nowhere to be found, and he had been worried sick about what had happened to us. So I told him that I was completely safe and sound and the kids were with me. I told him that I was at Abby's place and that I did not want to see him for the rest of the vacation and as soon as we went back, I would file for a divorce. He sounded shocked when I said that and told me that I was overreacting and making a bigger deal out of this than I needed to. He told me to come to the hotel and we could talk things through calmly, but I was in no mood. I told him that this one incident had made me realize how unfair things had been for the past couple of years, ever since our daughter had been born. I also told him that he had said that he needed a break and some time away from his family, so now, he shouldn't complain about the time that he was getting since he had asked for it himself. He was very upset and tried to tell me that he hadn't mentioned it that way, and he was really sorry if I had misunderstood him, but he just meant that things had been really stressful at work since he was trying to provide for the family to the best of his abilities, and he just needed some peace and quiet. I literally laughed out loud at that point and explained to him that I had also felt these exact same things, but I had never tried to abandon my family and run away from it. And that's what he had done, in spite of knowing that I was not happy about his decision. I told him that I had always been more involved with the household chores and raising our kids than he had ever been. I had actually been happy taking care of everything, since I knew that we were a family and at the end of the day, we were going to stick together. But after what he had done, I was not so sure anymore. He tried to claim that he had equal contribution, but that was not true in the slightest. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but it was like I was one who was solely responsible for everything in the household, and I would have to tell him exactly what to do, and only then would he do it. We lived in the same house, and I'm pretty sure that he was aware that certain things needed to be done, like maybe getting the groceries on time or buying things the kids needed. Or even things like washing the dishes or doing the laundry. It really sucked that I would have to tell him to get it done, or he just wouldn't do it on his own. I had tried to explain to him several times that he had free will, he could see that certain things needed to be done, and he did not need to wait for me to come around to tell him to do it, but he always had excuses ready. He was always too exhausted after work to notice these things, and I had always accepted that excuse. But I believed that he owed me at least a discussion before he just upgraded himself to business class and left us alone. He was also only there for the fun part with the kids on the weekends, but when it came to raising them, teaching them right from wrong, and keeping them disciplined, he barely was a part of any of that, and he always got off being the good cop and the fun parent while I had to put in all the real hard work. I had these complaints against him for a long time, and I had told him about it several times, and he always promised me that he would try to be more proactive, but nothing ever changed, and I was sick of waiting. For the past couple of years, I honestly started feeling like a single mother whose husband would only be around on the weekends like a fun relative, and not literally the father of her children. I communicated all of this to him, and yet again, he told me that he would try to change, but this time, I was not buying it. After the incident at the airport, I did not trust him anymore since he had really pushed me too far this time. I had made it very clear to him that I wanted him to be with us, and in spite of that, he had just ended the phone call abruptly and left me on my own with our 2 kids. So I told him that now he could enjoy the vacation on his own, and I was going to enjoy it my way. We were already going to go our separate ways, and once we came back, I was going to make sure that we lived separately as well so he could get all the space to himself that he required so badly. After that, I hung up, and Abby said that I did the right thing because it was very obvious that Andrew had been given several chances to change and yet, he had not. After the phone call, Andrew kept trying to call me again and even started texting me that he was really sorry and that he was going to fix the situation, but I just needed to come to the hotel and talk to him in person. He kept telling me that he was going to make things right, but he just needed a chance to speak to me, and after telling me to come to the hotel a couple of times, he told me that he could also come to meet me wherever I was. All he needed was the address to Abby's house. But right now, I just don't want to see him. So I've been ignoring those messages, but a couple of hours ago, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law. She and I have never had any sort of animosity, so I decided to pick her up, and both she and my father-in-law were on the phone with me. They told me that they had heard about whatever had happened from Andrew and said that they wanted to apologize to me on his behalf. I told them that it was really nice of them to do so, but this was between me and Andrew. They did not need to feel bad for any of this. However, they not only contacted me for this reason but also because they had heard from Andrew that I was apparently thinking about filing for a divorce, and they just wanted to request me not to do that, because then it would make it very difficult for them to see the kids as regularly as they did. I tried to reassure them that I was not going to restrict our children from being able to see them. Truth be told, I haven't even thought about whether I'm going to file for full custody or not. It's very scary, and at the moment, I'm not sure what I want to do, to be honest. Anyway, I tried to explain to them that things were going to be fine, but they were very panicky and kept begging me to go back to Andrew, and said that I should give him a chance. They said that we have been together for almost 8 years and things have only hit a rough patch, but just because of that, I shouldn't think about leaving him so soon. I was sure about what to do before that phone call, but now, after getting off the phone with his parents, I feel weird. Andrew has still been texting me and keeps telling me to talk to him and says that he knows that we can work things out because we have been together for almost a decade and have been through much worse situations, so we will definitely be able to work this out as well. I feel like I might actually have overreacted since I can see that all of them are trying really hard to get me to go back to him. But I also feel that what he did at the airport was not fair at all. So Ida for threatening to get a divorce because my husband decided to upgrade to business class and left me alone with our 2 kids right before a family vacation? Update 1. Hi. So 3 days have passed since I landed in LA, and I have been living with Abby and her husband. They have been kind enough to open up their home to me and have been there for me in this difficult time. I've been sharing clothes with Abby and the kids got some new clothes for themselves. However, we can finally go back to wearing our own clothes now because earlier today, I finally met with Andrew and he brought along our bags with him. Last night, after a lot of deliberation and a discussion with Abby and her husband, I finally decided to respond to Andrew. I gave him the address and that was it. I did not say anything else. I figured that if he wanted to show up, he would come on his own and would not require me to say anything else. Besides, after all that had happened, I felt really awkward. This morning, he showed up with the bags and everything, and when he came, Abby and her husband decided to take the kids and go into a separate room. The kids were quite happy to see him since they had been asking about him a lot. There was a lot of hugging and screaming, and I instantly knew that even if I did file for a divorce, I would never be able to get myself to file for full custody as well because of everything. They seemed to be very happy around their father, and he was just as happy to be around his kids. Anyway, once the kids were in a separate room, we finally got to talking. It was awkward, but he told me that he was really sorry from the bottom of his heart for not being a better father and a better husband. He said that he hadn't even thought that any of this was a big deal, but he hadn't exactly been thinking about how I felt and had just been thinking about his own self, and it was really incredibly selfish of him. He finally told me that he really appreciated everything that I had done for the family and how hard I continued to push myself all the time, just to keep everybody happy. I told him that these were nice things to hear, but I needed real and tangible change, and I had given him several chances to do so, but he never took any of it seriously. And that was why we were in the situation today. I told him that what had happened at the airport had really hurt me and maybe I had overreacted a bit, but honestly, everything just kept piling on and I couldn't deal with any of this anymore. I thought that he was going to get defensive again, but to my surprise, he came to me, got onto his knees, and took my hands in his own. That was when I realized that I still loved him, no matter how he behaved with me, because the way that I felt when he did that made me feel like I was safe and nothing bad could ever happen to me. I started crying while he was on his knees, and he told me that he was really sorry and that he knew he needed to step up and be there for his family. He also went on to explain that so far, he had made his work his life, and every day that he would come back home, he would just be so drained and worried about the future. Since he believed that whatever he was making was not enough, so much so that he couldn't even bring himself to think about anything else. He even said that he had been taking anxiety medication for the past couple of months because of how stressed out he had been. I didn't know that, and he said that he didn't tell me because he didn't want me to worry about these things. He said that he had fallen asleep at the wheel and he was ashamed of it, but he just wanted one chance to make it work with me, and he promised me that he would make it worth it, and I would not regret it. I was still crying while he was saying all of this, so he wiped my tears and sat beside me, and just like all times, I put my head on his shoulder, and we just sat there like that for a couple of minutes. And I know this might not be the decision a lot of people will agree with, but I decided that I was going to stay with him. I really didn't care about what other people would say because I love him so much. I don't think I can ever love anybody that way. But I also love my children and I wanted the best for them. So I told him that I needed some time to think about things right now. And he told me that I could have all the time that I needed. So after that we hugged, and he went back to the hotel. I have discussed things with Abby and she told me that she has no advice for me. She just thinks that I'm a good wife and an even better mother. So she knows that I will do what's right for the family. I thought about things from Andrew's perspective after the conversation that we had today, and I guess it can't be easy to be in a position like that because while we both work, he definitely has always been more stressed about his work than I have ever been. He comes from a family where he has had to face extremely tough situations since his father lost his job and was struggling for a good couple of years when he was younger, so he knows what it means to struggle for money, and I guess that explains why he had been so focused on his work and nothing else. It's not an excuse, I know, but it is what it is. Also, the fact that he had been so stressed out for so long and hadn't even told me about it because he didn't want me to worry, it just makes me realize that we have just had a lapse in communication, and if we can fix that, maybe we can move past this. So now, I'm gonna think about it for a while and then let's see what happens. Update 2. Hi, so it's been a couple of days since my last update. 2 days after that conversation with Andrew, I decided to go live with him in the hotel that we had rooms in. I finally got out of Abby's hair with my kids. I thanked her for letting me stay with her and being there for me. She and her husband even dropped me off at the hotel, and since then, we have been staying together. We figured that our fight was leading to the kids getting disappointed since we had promised them a fun vacation and now, we were staying separately, and they barely got to do anything fun. So we are doing everything that we had planned, we would do, and the kids seem to be much happier now that we are together. I still have a lot of unresolved issues, but for the sake of the children, we are trying to keep all of that aside and just be there for each other as a family. I think that's the most important part of our lives right now, being there for our children and making sure that they are happy. He was right, we have been through much worse situations, so I think we can make it through this as well. When I came back to the hotel with the kids, I told him that I was not considering getting a divorce right now, but we still had a lot of things to work through. However, as soon as I told him that I was not thinking about divorce anymore, he was so happy that he literally hugged me, lifted me in the air, and did a full twirl. I don't even think he heard the last part and I didn't have the heart to repeat it because I was laughing so hard. Anyway, he keeps saying sorry every morning and has been doing his very best to make up for everything. I'm literally being treated like a princess right now, and I can't say that I have any complaints about his behavior at the moment. If things continue at this rate, I might even forgive him a lot earlier than I had planned. Update 3. Hi. So this update is particularly to address something that people have been saying. I've been receiving a constant stream of comments from a particularly hateful section saying that I'm a terrible mother and that I'm an idiot for getting back together with Andrew. I can understand that some people might not agree with my decision to get back together with him, but only I know that Andrew and I have been together for a really long time. We have had our fair share of issues and what he did recently was not right, but if he is willing to work on it, then I want to give him a chance. I want to fight for our marriage and I don't think that there is anything wrong with it. Lots of women do it, and for some of them, things actually turn out to be great. And I want to believe that I'm one of those women because Andrew has started changing right after we had that discussion. If he goes back to his usual self, then I know what to do. But as of now, I want to keep our marriage intact, and I really don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that for myself. The constant barrage of hate that I've been receiving is breaking my heart. Lots of people have even been accusing me of being selfish for getting together with him, even though he's not a good father. I personally don't agree with that. I think he's a good father and he's trying to be better, so that's what really counts. Anyway, we are almost at the end of our vacation right now and things have been going incredibly well for both of us, so I had to break it to you guys, but all of you are wrong. Once we get back home, we are going to start couples counseling, and I know for a fact that it's going to help us. The only reason I'm even posting updates right now is for the well-wishers because quite a lot of you have been invested in my story and I wanted to know more, so if some people really think that I'm not meant to be with him, then you guys are free to not read any updates on this post. But please, just keep your hateful comments to yourself because it's not worth it. Andrew and I are really happy together, and our kids are better off for it. Ultimately, we know what's best for our family, and I think people should really respect that. So if you're rooting for us to break up, I'm sorry to inform you, but that's not going to happen. Update 4. Hi, everyone. Wow, it's been quite some time since I came on Reddit. My last post was pretty intense. I guess it was not a real update. It was mostly just a rant about the hate I'd been receiving. But I'm happy to tell you guys that Andrew and I are still together. It has been 7 months since our vacation, and after we returned, we started looking for counselors near us and have been in couple counseling for the past couple of months. It's been going really well for us, and Andrew has been cutting back on his hours at work as well. He is more involved in the household now and takes care of the kids like never before. And now it's not just the fun part that he's there for them at all times whenever he is at home. He doesn't bring the office back home with him anymore, and I'm really glad about that. It also really feels like we have been able to find each other after a really long time. We have ramped up the date nights and are trying to reignite the spark because while we were on vacation, we realized that we really did love each other, but things have just been so hectic and intense for the past couple of years that we had forgotten to show each other the love that we felt. So we get our parents to babysit the children while we go out a couple of nights every month because we really need it. There's more to life than just work and kids. And I guess that was part of the reason why things were going so awry. Anyway, we have been actively working on our marriage and Andrew has never been a better husband or a father. Most importantly, the kids are happier than ever, and that's really what both of us honestly wanted. They are thrilled to have their father around more, and whenever I look at them, I feel like I made the right choice by sticking to him. Money is gonna come and go, but ultimately, we are all that we have. I think he had been a little too stressed about the future, but in a couple of weeks, we are going to take another road trip this time, and it's going to be much better. Our kids are quite excited about it and we are going to make sure that this time, everything is perfect. And you know what? Even if it's not, we want to find a way to deal with it, like a family. Because if the past couple of months have taught us anything, it is that we can do whatever we set our mind to as long as we have each other. And I know that it sounds like something straight out of a corny film, but it's true.